Tax Rep Network is brought to you by Bench, America's largest bookkeeping service for small businesses. Bench is committed to supporting business owners that have fallen seriously behind on their books, something that is all too common in representation work. They combine powerful technology and an in-house expert bookkeeping team to deliver accurate financials for every year of missing returns. Bench specializes in tough cases, solving even the most complex, difficult, and time-consuming client challenges. Working with Bench means more time for you to focus on actively working rep cases, problem solving, and growing your practice. What's more, they're fast, meaning you'll be keeping clients and revenue officers happy. It's a win-win. One of the greatest things I found is that if it's a really big, messy case, they can throw more and more people at it versus anyone I could find locally. Once Bench helps your clients fully catch up, their monthly bookkeeping service keeps them out of trouble, ensuring you can provide a truly lasting resolution. Bench's partner program is perfect for tax pros that need a dependable resource they can trust to get their clients caught up. With meaningful partner benefits and dedicated support, Bench already works with many tax rep members. Find out more at www.bench.co/taxrep. That's www.bench.co/taxrep. So how do I call the IRS and get through much faster? How do I avoid those courtesy hangups that the IRS does? I use Call ENQ. ENQ is a service that you can use to get through to the IRS much faster, get to a representative, and basically get your case resolved. We set up a special arrangement for Tax Rep Network listeners where you can try the service, get 200 minutes for $19.95. For less than $20, you get 200 minutes and you will save hours and hours and hours of time and frustration. Just go to callenq.com/TRN. Again, callenq.com/TRN as in Tax Rep Network. Try the service. It will literally change your practice. How do I manage my tax rep practice? How do I get transcripts? How do I track what is going on with the IRS with every single one of my client cases? How do we complete the offer forms, the powers of attorney, everything? We use Tax Help software. Tax Help software is the cornerstone of our practice. We use it for its intelligent ordering. Every single night, it will update the transcripts on our clients, so we will see things happen long before those letters even go to the mail. We can then, react. We can let the client know. We can get all the transcripts we need to determine what our client's best options are, when is the debt going to expire, and we can fill in all of the IRS forms and get them filed accurately, the analysis done correctly. If you're interested in giving it a test, go to taxhelpsoftware.com, use promo code TAXREPTRIAL, all one word, all caps. You will get a free 2-week trial. Again, that's taxhelpsoftware.com, TAXREPTRIAL, all caps for a free 2-week trial. If you love it and want to buy it, use TAXREP10, capital, all caps, TAXREP10, TAXREP10, all caps, one word. You'll save 10% on your purchase. It will be the engine that runs your tax rep practice, just like it's what we use for ours.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for joining me for this week's Tax Rep Network podcast. I am thrilled to have our guest with me today. If you are not familiar with her, please meet Jina Etienne. Many of you probably have, because I have, and I got very excited because Jina, I've told folks Accounting Web is coming up. It's their first conference in San Diego. So of course I get the agenda to see where I am. And before me is this keynote about being your authentic self and how that helps you sell and your client relations. And I was like, gotta have Jina on the podcast, because I'm actually doing a chapter in my next book on that. So if you don't know Jina, she is a CPA, sounds like a recovering CPA, 32 years career as an entrepreneur, business consultant, C-suite leader. After a 21-year career in public accounting, including 17 running her own CPA firm, she shifted to serving the profession as a director of the American Institute of CPAs. then President and CEO of the National Association of Black Accountants, Inc. She went on to become the first national leader for D&I at Grant Thornton. Diversity and inclusion, if you don't know what that is, the sixth largest CPA firm in the United States. Today, she runs her own diversity and inclusion consultancy practice, specializing in inclusive leadership and development, implicit bias and conscious communications, cultural sensitivity and awareness, and empowering authenticity and fostering belonging. She also does one-on-one coaching for executives, business leaders, and entrepreneurs to help them improve workplace relationships, team performance, and interpersonal effectiveness. Jina, thank you for doing this.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
And so everyone who's listening, Jonas and I started talking, and we're talking. I said, we got to get started on the podcast. What prompted this, so I'm, as I started to tell you, I'm working on my next book, and it's about practice building. Unlike my other guides, which are on, kind of technical stuff, how to do an offer, how to do this. This was more practice driven. And one of the things I found is, because it forces you to really think about, what did I do really? Why is this working? And what I have found is being able to tell client stories, being a good storyteller, I think is critical. But honestly, I think being authentic, because the audience connects with you, people connect with you, versus my attempting to go out and, listen, I know this is going to be a shock, but, I'm super sleek, just model thin and no lisp, no glasses. I'm perfectly jet black hair. I am a former college football player. I am also a recovering accountant, but I went into a worse drug called law. I look like an ex-jock who's a former accountant who went into law. I look kind of like, the way I am. But for some reason, I connect. And it's why I speak at AICPA and ATP, Accounting Web, CCH, and all the rest. You do the circuit as well. So I to give to those folks who are going to be at Accounting Web perhaps a preview, but more than that, can you talk about, first of all, sort of your journey and how did you kind of arrive at this? Because being authentic is not something that was pushed when you and I were back as young accountants going into the big firms.
Well, it's not like being authentic is something you can just say, oh, you know what, today I'm going to be authentic.
Right.
Either you are or you aren't. But you can, in this moment, but you can learn to relax and be more of yourself. But it's hard because, today so many people have heard the bring your whole self to work, and whole is in quotation marks here. And for the record, may I apologize in advance because my landscaper literally is outside my window as we speak. And Eric, he wasn't here when we first started the call, right?
He will not be the first landscaper to make an appearance on this podcast.
So it's either the landscaper or the snoring dog. I just want everybody listening to know that those noises are not coming from me. All right. So back to this thing about bring your quote unquote whole self to work. We all show up in different ways. And it's not that we have multiple personalities, but we do show up differently at home. I'm going to dinner later with my girlfriend, and I'm going to be a slightly different me there than I'm going to be on a Zoom with a prospective client. And then when they become a client, they're going to see a little bit more of me. And does that mean I'm hiding or covering or pretending? No, it doesn't. But it does mean I'm adapting myself to the situation. Well, part of adapting yourself to the situation is trying to fit in the organization where you work or in the circumstance that you find yourself in. And the work that we do to fit in, it's completely normal as humans. We're pack animals. We want to get along. We want to be part of a group. We don't do well in isolation. We definitely don't do well. Lonely humans who are lonely have higher health issues, shorter life expectancy, real physical problems. And so the challenge becomes, what's the line? When are you doing that normal stuff to sort of fit in and be part of the group? And when are you hiding? And who's to say what that line is? It's something each of us have to set for ourselves. The only thing I will say, though, is what you do know is inside. If what you're doing is not saying something because you're insecure, if you're not saying something because you're afraid of how people will judge you, or if you are saying something to try to influence how people will see you and judge you and think of you, then perhaps you're not being your authentic self. Or then, okay, is it authenticity or is it insecurity? Is it, this stuff is complicated, but we toss around this, bring your whole self to work. We toss around this idea of authenticity like it's a thing we can be.
Right.
And it's more about how we are showing up and expressing ourselves. And not just what I'm saying or doing, but Eric, it's how you're receiving me.
Right. Well, and it's interesting because today, the world in many ways feels like it's gone mad. And so what I find is there are moments where I am curtailing what would come out of my mouth for the very reason that, for instance, I do not want to have political discussions with people. I don't see it. I don't see anything good coming from it. I kind of wish for the day. Do you remember where there was a time when you didn't discuss politics and there's just certain topics you didn't discuss? I kind of miss those days.
They were considered not polite.
Right. And on the one hand, I don't want to be, like we should all be, we should all, hold back and all be kind of this formal, false, whatever. But there are moments where you do really want to curb. It's interesting. Jina, I had on a guy I grew up with, former Navy SEAL, and we were talking about the issue of people getting overwhelmed. And he had said something to me years ago that has stuck with me. And he said, the way you get through, Navy SEALs go through something called BUDS, basic underwater demolition SEAL training. And most people quit because day after day, they get overwhelmed. I got 6 months of this. And he told me, he said, you keep your world small. I'm going to focus on not the whole pie, just the piece. Let me get through this piece. I'm not worrying about that. And I thought it was helpful. It's been very helpful to me. I try to not read too much of the news. Because you can wake up and be a nervous wreck the moment before you walk out your house, just from the news, just from all the stuff you have going on, and so I had him on and we talked about that. How do you kind of focus yourself and just focus on the task at hand, not worry about everything else? You can't do anything about it anyway. But I'm wondering how much of that also are we watching people kind of come apart because of the stress from work, COVID, the unrest, social unrest. I mean, last summer was an ugly summer for this country. I'm very hype on the authentic, especially when it comes to clients, because to me, clients, they're attracted to you or they're not. You could be the most brilliant person in the world, but if there's something sort of, there are off-putting things about certain people. But, there are moments, like you said, where you're going to show certain aspects of you, but not necessarily everything to everybody.
So I think you mentioned this in my bio, but if you didn't, I had my own CPA firm for 17 years.
We did.
And I remember when I first started practice, I came out of the Big Eight. If anybody remembers them,
yep.
There were 8, now there are 4. Yep. And I started at Touche Ross. And I was grateful for the position. I loved the firm. I really appreciated my experience there, learned a lot. When I start my own practice, then I try to mirror and I try to set myself up to be like a really teeny weeny baby version of that big firm. So I'm thinking, what are my tax return report covers going to look like? What font should I use? What quality paper should I use? And I'm literally thinking, should I get blonde wood or cherry wood furniture? I'm literally having these thoughts because I'm trying to create a space and to create an image that I am one of the good CPAs. I'm a smart CPA. I am so CPA that you're going to like believe I'm a so totally CPA, whatever the hell that even means. Am I allowed to say that on your podcast?
Oh yeah. Oh, I swear.
So I'm trying to, I'm trying to create this brand that when people see me, whether they see a brochure back, remember when we had those? They see a business card, remember when we had those? This is before we even have websites. When they see this, they see it and they say, ah, yes, she's a CPA because she fits the expectations of a CPA. Well, the challenge with that then was I felt like I had to dress a certain way. I had to talk a certain way. I had to speak about the services in a particular way. And I was so hung up at the beginning of my practice being that CPA that I wasn't being myself. Now, I was being myself. I was just being a very narrow version of myself. And if anybody's heard me speak, I've shared this story often in different presentations I've done. There was this one instance, I was fully dressed in a suit, makeup, hair, the whole thing. And I went out front and I didn't have my shoes on. And I'm walking around the front area without my shoes on, and a client walked in the door. And I was kind of mortified because, you know, who walks around barefoot in the office? And so I apologized to the client, and the client literally laughed. And he said something to the effect of, so in just, I know who it was. He said, girl, if you had your shoes on, I wouldn't have recognized you. And I laughed at that. And I thought he was being funny. And then what I realized is my clients know who I am.
Yep.
I'm just pretending, but they see me because like you, I just put it out there. If you ask me a question, I'm going to answer the question.
Right.
If you ask for my opinion, I'm going to give you my opinion.
Yep.
And now I let people know, please don't ask me for my opinion if you don't want it, because I'll give it to you. But I've also learned that if my girlfriend says, hey, do you like this dress? I shouldn't say, oh, hell no, I don't like that dress. What I should say is, because if I don't like it, what she's really asking is it good for her?
Right.
And so I can say, no, that's perfect for you. I can totally see why you get it. Totally see how it looks on you. That looks great on you. I don't have to tell her I'd
You
never
wouldn't
buy
wear
it.
Yeah, right.
But the old me would have said that.
Right.
And so I've learned to be nicer, but I still have learned that when I walk around barefoot, it doesn't mean I'm not being professional. And it's okay to do that because people trust you, the person. And you said this earlier, they trust you, the person, not the person filling out the tax forms.
Right.
Anybody can do a tax return.
Right.
In theory. And frankly, we know there are a lot of anybody's out there that shouldn't be, but anybody can do a tax return. But understanding the person behind the return, that takes a different skill. That takes a level of connection and ability. And that connection requires us as professionals to do something we were not trained to do in school. And that is to be vulnerable and to share our, wait for it, feelings, right? It's, and that's not something we're trained to do in business school. That's not something they tell you to do in the big firms. That's not something they tell you to do in corporate America.
Yep.
You know, you can leave your feelings at the door. This is work. It's not personal. Well, I'm here to tell you, especially in today's environment, work is very personal. If we've learned nothing from COVID, we have learned that mental health and wellness and difficulty navigating really hard times, it lands on all of us differently, and there's no right or wrong here. And what we really need to do is just acknowledge that we're all suffering in different ways. And some people are fine.
Yep.
But that's okay. It's not a judgment.
And by the way, you may think you're fine. And, you know, I mean, I have to tell you, COVID for us has been a boon. I mean, when we went into shutdown, I was in my backyard. I could work We were busy as ever.
Mhm.
It was, but there's a lot to unpack in what you said, but I would have told you everything was great. About 9 months in, I really I had no energy, and I spoke to a friend of mine who's a doctor, and she said, "Have you ever considered the idea you're depressed and you're stressed out?" I'm like, "No," and she said, "I bet you are." And it does impact people differently. But what's funny, so funny, when you talked about opening your practice, when I opened mine, there was a book for lawyers called Teach Me to Solo. And what do they talk about? Where you put your office, got to be in a nice building. Furniture,
yeah.
this is your image. The plants, you have to have plants, because if you don't have plants, it looks bare. Artwork. And so it's funny, because so in this book I'm doing, I'm like, have practice will travel. I have eFax, I have email, I can scan with my phone now, but I
Right.
could even get a real multifunction. I have this laptop. I have done work in Connecticut, where I'm sitting, Miami, Tel Aviv, California. I log in, I can work, I can eFax, I can get stuff. The world today has shifted, and if there's a silver lining to the pandemic, if there is one, it has trained clients. You do not have to physically come and sit in my office and drink my coffee and see me. Zoom is perfectly fine. The phone is perfectly fine. Yes.
Well, but to take it to the next step, if we think about it, so we're talking about authenticity. If we think about it from that lens, it also invited our clients to see us as more like people.
Right.
And I think that I know I learned this in my practice. I'm grateful. When I sold my practice to go to the AICPA, I was torn. I was excited about the AICPA opportunity, but I was struggling with how I'm going to leave my clients. Okay, yes, there were quite a few in there that were just people who paid me to do the returns, and I did a good job. I think I served them the way I served other clients. But there were far more clients that I had relationships with. I had been there when this client had lost a baby, and we had to talk about the fact that they still qualify as a dependent because they were alive on December 31st. I remember a client who actually was referred to me by a colleague. My colleague brought the client in with her, along with her financial advisor. Her husband died in a plane crash and had received one of those triple benefit payouts because it was I don't remember what the term is, not catastrophic, but something like that. So she ends up being a multimillionaire for all the reasons she never wants to be a multimillionaire. Mm-hmm. So now she needs somebody to help her with her tax return. Clients come in and their life follows them along, particularly in tax. And I'm sure it's this way in law, and depending on what area of law you practice. A tax return is someone's life boiled down to numbers on a form. Some things can stay consistent year over year and other things change. And so your clients come to see you as, it's so cliche, but it's more than an advisor. Right. Because, and one of the things I try to tell people today, especially young professionals that reach out for mentoring, what is it that you offer that they can't get from somebody else? And I'm going to talk about this at, an accounting web in my keynote. Please don't tell me you're a great accountant. You can't say I'm the best tax preparer out there, or my bookkeeping is spot on, or I really know how to do XYZ service, because I'm going to follow that up with, well, I hope so. Well, fascinating. You're a dime a dozen. There are a lot of you out there.
Doing good work different? Is the bare minimum.
Yeah, it goes without saying.
Right.
So what am I going to get from you? And it's some of it is what you're talking about earlier. You're going to click.
Right.
But that's not always a good thing. It depends on what people are looking for in the relationship. And sometimes you're going to be a fit and sometimes you're not. But the best thing about authenticity, if you can learn to be vulnerable, and if you can learn to open up and show a little bit more of yourself than the right color font and the right color, the plants and the pictures on the wall that you were talking about, if you can show a little bit more of yourself, you can, the clients that will naturally gravitate toward you you're going to be aligned in some meaningful way, whether it's values, whether it's vision, whether it's approach, whether it's style. And yeah, okay, it all boils down to a tax return in my case.
Well, that yeah, but it's
former case. Sorry, I'm no
yeah.
longer a tax person, but yeah.
Right. But the point is it actually, instead of being this faceless or emotionless drone, there is, whether it's marketing or that relationship, in a way, what your interests, who you are, what your interests are, actually help sell. I have actually one of my tax rep members who's very into cigars. That become a thing where there's a whole community. I know, because I do enjoy cigars myself. There's a whole community wrapped around that. And there's an attraction to people who you have the same interests as they do, or whether it's religious groups, whether it whatever. So whereas I agree, when I came into Deloitte and Touche right after the merger, and KPMG is where I spent my time, as well as Mintz Levin, one of the very big law firms. No one wanted to see that. Your office was sort of, you had your paper on the wall and you had your files, and that's what you did. My office, which I'm not in now while we're doing this, but if you could see my office, it is very much designed around me. It is my personality impressed on that office. You got yourself blurred out.
Oh, well, you can see orange. Can you see the orange wall behind me?
Yes.
Orange is my favorite color.
Yeah, we
although
my wife loved the pomegranates, and so now we literally just redid I'm doing this from my dining room.
Pomegranate wallpaper.
Yeah, it's she
but
loves that. Yeah,
it's what you're talking about you get to be yourself. I'm not sure where you were going, but I wrote a note here that said, like you're looking for people like you. You're looking for familiarity and similarity. That's a bias. So I work in diversity and inclusion, and a lot of the D&I conversation has started in the space of bias. Mm-hmm. And the challenge with the word bias is it implies a bad thing. Mm-hmm. But we need to strip that out, because bias is a brain function, depending on how it's defined. The fact that you seek out and look for and connect with people that are similar to you, it's called human. Mm-hmm. And it's natural. It's a barrier and it's a problem if that bias, as a result of that bias, you're overlooking other people.
Right.
Particularly as it relates to business opportunities, et cetera. Now, as business owners, I'm an African-American woman. Okay, I'm Black. I go by Black. I don't usually say African-American. Am I only looking to work with Black clients? Ask myself a question, because am I more comfortable, familiar? Am I only looking to work with women business owners or clients? Familiarity is good, and it helps me relax and feel like I can be more of myself because we have something in common. But I think the danger there is that once again, we start to narrow ourselves into something.
Right.
There's just, the reality is authenticity is hard. I think one of the very first sessions I ever did with the title was the authenticity paradox or something like that, or the myth of authenticity. Because people have now taken that word to mean I can say whatever I want, whenever I want, because that's being authentic.
Right.
I can show up and this is the way I dress because it's authentic. And all of those things are true to a point, because you need to be yourself, but maybe being too much of yourself in the wrong place at the wrong time. There's something called oversharing.
I was going to say time and place.
Time and place, context matters, relationship matters, purpose matters. I'm not going to wear my wedding dress to Starbucks with my colleagues, right? That would just be, technically I could do it. Mm-hmm. Just because did you see the movie Jurassic Park?
Yes.
There's a line in there where Jeff Goldblum says who's the guy, the actor who's the one who had the vision
Oh, the older gentleman.
I don't remember his name or the character or his name, but
Yeah.
I know Jeff Goldblum. And Jeff Goldblum had a line in there that said something to the effect of, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right.
And that's the challenge when you talk about authenticity. There's this wide range. There's the one end of it is be yourself. Don't hide, don't cover, don't pretend. Don't do things or not do things because you're trying to get people to see you a particular way. That's one extreme. On the other extreme, you don't get to just say whatever you want, do whatever you want, wherever you want. Yes, you can do that. But to what end? And it gets back to what you were saying earlier, that you don't want to have political conversations with people. Well, part of the challenge that we find ourselves in society today, I'm just going to throw out my little opinion and then you can smack me down for it. But part of the challenge I think we have in society is that we have rights with no responsibility, and my rights trump yours. I shouldn't have used that one word in case somebody hears it out of context.
Yep.
My rights are more important than your rights. And one of the challenges is, you even talked about it earlier, afraid to say the wrong thing. Maybe it's political correctness, cancel culture.
Mhm.
All of that is an issue if we're not willing to give someone grace.
Right.
Eric, let's just say you said something and it just kind of irritated the hell out of me, pissed me off. I'm offended. I'm starting to look at you through my side eye because I'm like, did he really just say that?
Mhm.
I could judge you. It's easy to judge. But what's harder to do is to say, I think he probably meant something else by that. Let me listen a little bit more. Let me ask a couple questions. Let me just stay in this conversation because I might soon discover that it was not at all what I thought I heard. I heard wrong, or I heard right, but his intentions were different than what I thought they were. I mean, all of that engagement is required for us to ultimately be this authentic self. I can show up as me, but if I'm showing up as me and hitting you over the head with a brick as me, how's that helpful?
Right.
Right.
Well,
I need to calibrate that.
And also the understanding that people can change.
Yes. We learn, we grow, we make mistakes. Shockingly, we don't do well because we got it right the first time. The reason we're better over time is because each of those little mistakes, hopefully there are no really big ones, but it's the sum of all of those mistakes that led us to where we are right now. Because you don't do well because you never made a mistake.
Right. Well, if you never make a mistake, there's no growth, there's no change, there's nothing. You're just, you're consistent. If there's no such thing as redemption, then everything becomes, it's like, if you're like in Star Wars, one of my kids said, it's like the Sith. I was like, huh? That everything is black and white, that there's never any, there's, and if you say do something bad, you can't recover from that. You can't grow from it. President Obama was against gay marriage. By the end of his presidency, he was for same-sex marriage. Why? He looked at the issue, and over those 8 years, it changed his opinion. Am I supposed to hate the man because when he first ran, he said he was against it? No, I believe people can change. I'm sure my opinions have changed on everything. I'm sure if I went back and dug through it over time.
Yeah, you don't want to know what I thought in high school. I don't want to know what I thought in high school. Thankfully, I survived all of these years and have not, I think that any one of us, if we dipped back into our past, somebody could pull out something that would result in any one of us being canceled.
Right.
In any moment. There, but for the grace of God, go I, right?
Yep.
Anyway, we could talk about the thing about authenticity is you could talk about it from every possible angle. At the end of the day, the voice that you're using, the mannerisms that you're using, the expressions on your face, the decisions you make should all come from a place of belief that what you're doing is the right thing to be doing in that moment, in that context, for this situation, for this person, for this objective. And You're not holding back, pretending, lying, anything in that process. You're putting what you have out there and then trusting that process. Trust is a little terrifying, but trusting the process. And if the other person's doing the same thing, you'll be fine.
Well, and I agree 1,000%. And so what I would suggest to the audience listening is a couple things. One, I couldn't maintain a fake. You can't maintain that. I mean, you can get away with it for an hour, maybe one day, maybe one conference, but at some point, the real me, the real you will come out. So I can't be bothered. Same thing with lying. I can't bother I couldn't keep track. Just, it's not worth the stress that it would cause trying to keep track of everything. So one is, I think just being you, it's just easier. It's less stress, but more than that, when it comes to selling, especially, speaking, when I get up in front of a group, they don't have to, the group does not, for me to be effective, what I've discovered, they don't need to agree with me. They need to believe that I believe what I'm saying. If I'm authentic, if they get the sense I am passionate about this is what I believe, even if they disagree, it's generally a great talk. I generally have, people are attracted to that versus I come out in something that is very canned or clearly that has been the word is escaping me. I don't want to say
Cookie
practice.
cutter.
Yeah, cookie cutter or to the point of where it starts to border on fake. When people get the sense that it's not really you, they're going to tune out. It does the reverse. It now makes you less attractive.
Well, I would also add, I think that part of why that works, especially as a speaker, is you've also got to appear not righteous. You have to be putting things out there as this is what you think. These have been your experiences. These are my stories. And you're still discovering, you're still growing, you're still learning, but this is what I know as of right now. And here's why I believe these things. And you seem approachable. You seem reasonable. I can see how you think what you think. That is how I can sit in an audience and listen to you, even if I don't agree with you. Mm-hmm. Because you're just there and I can get a sense of you as a person. But you're right. If I see people standing on stage and they're speaking and it sounds like they're reading their script, it rings as disingenuous. It makes me wonder, I might agree with the information you're giving, but I'm not necessarily trusting the vehicle that I'm getting the information from.
Right. Well put.
On the other hand, there are people who are masterful at reading a script, and you'd never know they're reading a script. That can be a bad thing. It depends. I mean, the context of this, the challenge of this conversation, Eric, because you and I could talk about this all day. Oh, yeah. Because this stuff is complicated, it's nuanced, and it's in some places it's also feels black and white. And when I hear people talk about authenticity, it's like we boil it down to a thing. We boil it down to being our real selves. Well, what the hell does that even mean? Because, like I said, I mean, so I am going to dinner tonight with my girlfriend. I'm going to be a slightly different version of me at that dinner for a couple of reasons. One, because we have our relationship that's a little bit different than the relationship I have with my sons, right? Mm-hmm. The other one is I'm free. My husband's not there. So I can maybe say and do things that I wouldn't necessarily say or do around him, not because I'm because of him, but because, friends like to talk about things. And some of the things I want to talk about are my challenges, one of which might be something I'm going through with my husband. Mm-hmm. Yep. I can do that with a friend in a way that I can talk about my challenges with my husband, not with her. Well, maybe I could, but that doesn't mean I'm being inauthentic.
Right.
It's just I'm showing up differently. And I think the bottom line to authenticity, especially for business owners, is you said this earlier, you cannot fake your way into success.
Nope.
I think one of the best lessons I learned when I was in practice is I could make a mistake, but it doesn't matter. You can always amend a return if there's trust. And I don't remember what it was. Somebody just tweeted the other day. It was somebody on tax Twitter tweeted about some horrible client that treated them a particular way and they wanted to fire their client. And I don't know why, but what I responded was, then there are the good clients. My father passed away right before Labor Day. My tax practice was one where everything went on extension. Everything. Right. Yeah. And I was lucky if I even filed mine on time even after that. But his funeral was right after Labor Day. And I literally had clients, some of them actually came into the office. I was surprised it was more than one, and said, it's okay if my return goes late. I know you'll take care of it.
Trust.
I mean, who does that? Right. And they knew that if the return went late and there were penalties or if there was a problem, I got you. They know that I got them. And so they just trusted me. That was very powerful for me to hear that. And that meant that they knew who I was and saw me as more than their tax preparer.
Right.
You don't get that by faking it. You don't get those relationships by being what you think they. Okay, help me out. How do I do this? By being what they think you don't want to.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I was going to say, yeah, you don't want to try to fake your way to be what you think they think you should be.
Thank you. Those words are the words I was trying to use. I watch Top Chef, and what's funny is about how many people on Top Chef, they learn the hard way that you can't cook what the judges want. You have to cook your food.
Right.
And the judges just want good food.
Right. It amazes me on that show how many contestants who always go out decide to try something they've never done before. Of all the times you're going to try, I'm trying to think of I can think of a handful of them. One of them she was going to do was an ostrich egg for something.
Oh yeah. I know.
This is years ago. And I was like, okay, that is a really bad idea.
Right. I'm rewatching all of the seasons because COVID.
Yeah.
And recently there was a guy who, it was Dana Cowan came on and they said, was it a kale salad or was something that is so cliche? And so I want you to prove that that this is still a good thing. Reimagine it in another way. Basically, I don't want to see a salad. And so there's this one chef who says, I don't think she's had a salad that she's going to really like, so I'm going to make a salad. And all I could think about was the arrogance. Yep. The arrogance. You were explicitly told not to make a salad, and you made one anyway. And
in other words,
relevant.
Please throw me off the show.
Yeah, and he did. It was a quick fire, so he didn't get eliminated, but he definitely lost. And one of the things that they said when they were tasting his food is she said something so pointed as, so I asked you not to make a salad and you made a salad. And in that moment, he felt like a jerk. You could see it on his face, like an idiot. And I mean, those are those moments where, you're showing up in a particular way with a particular client because you know better. You're the smart one here in this room. My client doesn't know. Not that you're going to say this to the client, but you believe this about yourself. Right. Here's the thing. They can see you. Your clients can see you, right? Which is why you just have to be, you can't fake it. You said it before, you can't lie your way into something over time. It's going to fall apart.
Right.
You can't pretend your way through your career over time. It's going to fall apart. Or when the moment matters, when your father passes away and you really could use some people to just stand beside you and hold you up, there won't be anybody there.
Nope, it happens. An example that I can use, because I am Jewish, I happen to have Orthodox clients. Now, I can talk, I can speak the speak, I can walk the walk, but it's not really me. I'm not Orthodox. I kind of concluded a long time ago, I am not going to try to fake that I'm not going to pretend what I am not, because they will see right through it.
Right.
I mean, it trust me, within 5 minutes, they're going to know I'm full of it.
Right.
And
And
I
people still
don't,
try that.
and I have to tell you the truth. They accept me. We get along great. They become great referral sources. I'm respectful when I am at their place. They're generally
That's
respectful.
why.
Yeah.
That's
And
why.
this is who I am, and
Yeah.
they're good with it.
That's the thing. If you show people who you are, they're going to accept you or not accept you. And if you show them who you are and they accept you, you're in, you're done. You have a
Yep.
relationship, and then trust builds from there. You can lose trust, you can rebuild trust. And trust lost and rebuilt can often be stronger than the generic trust you get when you meet somebody.
Right.
But it's better if they meet you and they know, okay, this guy's not orthodox, but he's a good guy and we trust him. And here's the thing, a lot of people in their world aren't orthodox.
Right.
So who are you trying to pretend to be for their sake?
Right.
So anyway, no, I agree. And this stuff is not easy to do. There are a lot of reasons why we don't feel like we can be our authentic selves. And that's authentic selves for whatever that means to you, whatever that means to the person listening to this podcast. Authenticity in your eyes, my eyes, or Eric in your eyes is highly subjective. But the barriers to authenticity are fear of embarrassment, fear of isolation, fear of judgment, fear of being shamed. These are very real fears. And it happens in our communities, but it happens at work in much more subtle ways. And at work, our mortgage is on the line, our health insurance is on the line, our career progression is on the line. There's a lot at stake that changes the dynamics of why I might not want to be my authentic self, not to mention power dynamics at play, in the workplace.
Right.
So I just want to acknowledge this stuff is hard. There's no right answer. There's no uniform definition. It's highly experiential. And it's really about every person just asking themselves, are they pretending? Are they covering? Are they holding back? Are they doing things because they're wearing a mask, if you will, and they're trying to protect that mask? And if they are, then there's opportunity for you to work on self-awareness. There's opportunity for you to work on not just internal self-awareness, like what do you stand for? What do you believe? Who do you really want to be? And are you showing up that way? Internal self-awareness, but external self-awareness. So how do people see me? Because when you can sync those two things up, you can toss the mask.
Right.
All right. So that's going to be my thing. Sync it up and toss the mask. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful because there's no single answer. The challenge is even harder when you're when you're a business owner. If it's at high risk when you're an employee, it's an even higher risk when you're a business owner.
Right.
Because as a business owner, you're the executive, you're the advisor, you're the boss.
Mm-hmm. And it's your dollars on the line, and everything is jacked up when you're the owner.
Yeah.
No,
The stakes are high.
So no, I think. So listen, before I let you go, how can these folks get a hold of you if people do want to have you consult with them? If people do want coaching one-on-one, where can people find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
They can find me on Twitter. I'm Miss Tax Cat. I've been thinking about changing that, but I've been Miss Tax Cat forever. There's a story for that. My company has a Facebook page and my website, of course, Etienne Consulting. The challenge for me is always my name. Sometimes I wish I was Smith. Smith Consulting. People know how to spell it. They know how to find it. Etienne Consulting, a little bit more challenging. But I'm out there.
Yep.
And I would love the opportunity to work with anyone, whether it's training, keynotes, consulting, helping people with strategy, particularly small firms, because small firms and organizations don't have a budget for a chief diversity officer or to bring in a diversity expert to build out a strategy. But it's also difficult to know where to go. What do I start with?
Right.
As leaders, what do I need to know to do this right? Well, you can hire somebody like me to come in. We're not as expensive as, hiring. I'm trained to come in and do your training, and really help find solutions that would work for your business, your entity. So that's what I do. And I'd love to have those opportunities for anybody listening.
Yep. And I will definitely put some links down below in the description so you can find Jina, and hopefully you'll be joining us at Accounting Web Summit in San Diego, where you can actually see both of us. She actually goes before I do on the first day, well, the first real day, on Tuesday the 10th. And
first real day.
the first day, I think they have like day one is
actual
arrival.
Sessions,
yeah, it's like day one arrival. Day two is the first day of session. So
I'm also doing a panel in the afternoon. I'd encourage people to come. We're talking about culture.
Very nice.
Culture of innovation. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah, no. Listen, thank you for doing this. Thank all of you for listening in. Again, I will put Jina's information down below. You can reach out and connect with her. And thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I will see you in San Diego.